The rain in Lagos turned the street into a sheet of quiet silver. Neon signs shivered in the puddles and Okada lights drew thin lines on the wet road like pencils on a mirror. Inside the roadside eatery where I worked the morning shift, the air smelled like pepper soup and hot oil, and the small sweetness of bread warming on a low flame. Rent was due in a week. My mother's medication was already stretched past the safe line. My shoes had learned to pretend they were dry. I was wiping down the corner table when my foot nudged something that did not belong to the floor, or to people like me. It did not give like a forgotten nylon. It did not rattle like a plastic bag. It held its own weight the way stubborn men do. I crouched and pulled it out by the handle. A black briefcase. Not cheap, not scratched, not the type the market sells in a hurry. The leather had a grain that made you think of soft shadows. The latches were the color of thunder. Every piece of sense inside me said leave it. Every unpaid bill said open it. I placed it behind the counter where the light did not fully reach. The rain hissed against the awning and a generator 3 shops down coughed awake. I wiped 2 more tables. I told my heart to behave. Then my fingers found the latches. The sound was too soft for how loud it felt. Inside lay tidy bricks of cash held with bands, a matte black phone with no brand name, and a weight that meant it did not play, and a slim card case that carried 1 card only. Silver inked, a name, a number. Adrian Cavan. I did not know the man, but I knew the surname the way everyone in Lagos knows names that walk with a different kind of rain. You hear it at the edge of new clubs and old docks. You read it between lines in newspapers that cannot afford to write too clearly. My mouth dried. My mother's voice crossed the distance from our room in Ajij to this counter by Ojalegba, like it had the power to travel through rain. Character is what you do when nobody sees you, Nkem. I closed the case and slid it back under the counter as if shadows might be a lock. The phone vibrated once. Noringtun. Just that low hum of something waking. The screen lit with a single word. Call. I swallowed and looked around. Sonny at the grill flipped plantain with the same old rhythm. 2 students argued softly over who would pay for extra eggs. No one's eyes were on me. I answered and hated that my voice trembled when I said hello. Silence on the other end. Not empty. Listening. I found a briefcase in my shop, I said. If this belongs to Mr. Cavan, I want to return it. Everything is complete. Who are you? The voice asked. Quiet. Low. A river under concrete. Nkem. I am a waitress. Morning shift. Do not touch anything. Do not leave. Someone is coming. The line died the way strong doors do. I slipped the phone back in. I told my legs to be legs. I poured tea for the woman in the yellow scarf. I collected change with hands that felt borrowed from a calmer girl. 10 minutes later, the door opened and the room learned a new silence. 2 men in dark jackets stood in the doorway and allowed the rain to run off them onto the tile. Behind them came the third without a jacket at all, as if the weather decided to avoid him. He was taller than the frame liked. His suit was the color of late rain. A thread of silver ran through his hair at the temple. His jaw did not have patience for lies. His eyes were the kind of gray you see in cables that hold bridges up. He did not look around. He measured. The exits. The corners. Who mattered? Who did not? When his gaze landed on me, the sound in the room dropped like a DJ pulled the plug. Nkem, he said. Not a question. Mr. Cavan, I said, because calling him sir felt like placing a small cup under a waterfall. He approached with no hurry. He set down 1 leather glove as if it were a business card. There was the faint scent of rain and expensive citrus like someone bottled a storm for him. You called, he said. I returned your call, I said before fear could edit me. I found a briefcase. May I, he asked. I bent, pulled it from the shadow, opened it enough for the gold bands to glance at the light. He looked without moving his face. You did not take anything. No. Why? Because my mother cuts tablets in half and her hands shake. Because dignity can live on very little until it cannot. Because if I stole, it would be the end of myself I could not fix. Because it is not mine, I said. He watched 1 heartbeat longer than comfort allows, and something like curiosity passed through the gray in his eyes. Walk with me, he said. I am on shift, I answered, pointing at cups and a life that fit between a counter and a kettle. He raised a finger. One of his men placed a sealed envelope on the counter with the speed of magic. For your manager, he said. Your shift is covered. Sonny looked at the envelope, and then at me like it contained a decision too big for a small shop. Go, he said. Take your umbrella. I did not own one. I had a denim jacket with the clean smell of soap and hope. I wore it and took one last look at a space that had taught me the ratio of hard work to heat. Then I followed the man who changed the air. The car outside was the kind that makes other cars stand straighter. Inside there was leather and quiet and the hum of money. Legos ran in silver lines on the glass while the cabin stayed still. Why keep a case like that unsecured? I asked. Because silence turns certain men into mountains. You assume it was unsecured, he said, turning his head a fraction. So you meant to lose it? Meant is a gentle word, he said. No. But I accept loss when it teaches what it must. Useful to whom? You called me, he said. We are here. That is usefulness. An elevator rose without buttons. In the reflection, the city made people into sharper outlines. On the top floor, the doors opened to a quiet made of marble and restraint. He led me past art that wanted to whisper instead of shout, into an office where Legos sat spread out like a map he had memorized. He closed the door and the lock sounded expensive. Tell me what you did when you found it, he said. Every move. Every thought that matters. So I told him. The seconds when the money felt like an answer, and turned back into a problem. The way his name tasted like a story I should not join. He listened with a stillness that made me aware of my own breath. You have debts, he said. Medical. Not yours. I did not say that. You did not have to. He lifted the case lid. Beneath one row of cash lay a small velvet box. He flipped it open. Inside sat a thin silver locket the size of a coin. A picture could fit there. Or a secret. That does not belong to me, he said. I frowned. Then why keep it? I wanted to see if you would notice. The person who was supposed to bring it already proved she cannot be trusted. He snapped the box closed softly. A photo of the river printed itself on the glass behind him. What game are you playing with people? I asked. The kind where I decide who I can trust, he said. And the kind where people do not know they are pieces on your board. You called me, he said, and most do not. He slid a second phone toward me. Not the matte one. A simple device that had the confidence of the right tool. If you are honest because you fear, he said, fear has a price. If you are honest because you could not look at yourself otherwise, that is not a price. That is a spine. What do you want from me? I asked. A favor you do not owe me yet. What kind? The kind you can only give once. I stood. Keep your case, I said. Keep your tests. I have a mother and a landlord. He watched me as if I were rare weather. Common elements. Uncommon shape. When the elevator opened, it gave me back to the rain. I walked until the neon of the eatery hummed me home. Sonny closed the drawer too carefully. Everything okay? He asked. I returned what was not mine, I said. He nodded. They tip, he answered. I laughed a small laugh and kept moving. When I looked down later, cold and precise metal pressed into my jacket pocket. The second phone. I did not feel him slip it there. I set it on the counter and stared at it until the bell above the door rang harmlessly, and still lifted the hairs on my neck. Morning rumor reached us before sunlight did. A black SUV near the corner. A man whose voice sounded like a blade. A briefcase that returned honesty to the city. I refilled cups and slid plates and smiled only when I could afford to. The second phone vibrated at 9:17. I ignored it. It vibrated at 11:04. I ignored it. At 12:51 it danced the length of the counter, and pushed salt into pepper. And then my hand made a decision. "Nkem," said the river under concrete. "You put a phone in my pocket," I replied. "I gave you a way to not die curious." Outside, a man in a too-new jacket watched his reflection more than the street. I had seen him at 8. And again at 10. I told myself he liked mirrors. "What do you want?" I asked. "Breakfast," he said. "And to return something that is not mine either." "We serve eggs all day," I said. Sunny side up. "Sourdough. Black coffee. Corner table," he answered. The line died. He arrived 3 minutes later, not because of distance but because of decision. The car did not park. It became part of the curb. When he sat, the room made space. I poured coffee into a cup that would never belong to anyone else again. He took it black. Simple for a man who was anything but. I set down bread and eggs that looked like daylight. He slid a plain envelope under the napkin dispenser like a secret in church. For your mother's prescriptions, he said. A loan if you prefer the word. A gift if you insist. I do not want your money, I said. That is not money, he said. That is time you can buy back. Why do you care? Because you called me when you could have closed that case and called nobody. The man in the new jacket stepped away from the glass, then returned like a wave, learning how to be brave. Do you know him? I asked. Adrian did not look. I know what he is, he said. What is he? A messenger. Not mine. For whom? For someone who mistakes me for a man who receives messages like orders instead of answers like debts. The air shifted the way rooms do when weather changes in the distance. Adrian lifted a finger, and one of his men detached from a corner I had not known was holding a person. In a minute the jacket was gone, and the window held only the backward word breakfast in peeling gold. Last night you said the locket was not yours, I said. Correct. Whose? A woman who lied. A woman who might lie again. I do not tolerate second lies. Then why keep it? To remember the cost of first ones. He finished. He left more cash than anyone decent would. He lifted his hand to Sonny and somehow it read as respect, not threat. At the door he turned just enough to look like gravity had an opinion. When you use that phone, he said, use it like you only get to once. I did not count the envelope until midnight. I counted once and then half again. And then I stopped because numbers have a way of becoming decisions and I wanted this one to become breath. At 2:14 a.m., the second phone vibrated where it lay like a small animal on my table. One word on the screen. Downstairs. I peered through the peephole and met only the yellow light of the corridor all old buildings share. Who is this? I texted. 3 dots. You left your umbrella at the eatery, came the reply. Also you do not own one. Bring the phone. I told myself I did not have to go. I told myself the lift would be broken. I told myself many small things. I put on my coat. The car idled like patience and the passenger door opened like a sentence that expected a verb. Adrian sat inside with the dashboard light painting his face a thoughtful color. You could have knocked, I said. You could have asked me to, he answered. I did not invite you. You called, he said. By leaving the phone on. I wanted to dislike him for being right. I disliked myself more. He handed me a thin envelope that did not carry money. He turned it in his fingers like men do when the thing inside matters more than it should. People I trusted are moving pieces I did not place, he said. The case was meant for someone else. It reached you. That changed the board. I do not play, I said. Not your game. You do not have to. People who do will move around you anyway. What is in the envelope? He placed it in my palm. My skin learned his temperature in a snap. I opened it. A photograph. A woman in a gray dress on a balcony in a club that believed in its own price. Hair like a decision. On her throat a locket like the one in the case. Harbor Club, Friday, 11:40 p.m. in thin, careful handwriting. That is the woman who lied, he said. She used to answer to another name. Now she wears this one. What do you want me to do? Hold it until you feel its weight. Then tell me what you think. I studied the picture. I thought of pharmacists who count pills like hours. I thought of my mother's laugh on the good days. I thought of how a locket can be a promise or a chain. Anyone who looks like this in a place like that has not stood in a queue doing arithmetic with her heart, I said. His mouth did not move. His attention did. You do not look like a girl who cuts tablets, he said. That is the point, I said. None of us look like what we do when nobody sees. He turned. The movement was small. The effect was not. If I ask you to come Friday and see with your own eyes, will you say yes? No. Why? Because you did not say please. A pause, then the beginning of a smile like a city light at far distance. Please. Yes. Friday night the club lived above the water like a glass shark with velvet teeth. I wore a black dress I could not afford but could return. I pinned my hair with 3 pins and hope. He arrived in a suit that made other suits reconsider their purpose. On his wrist a line of ink curled up and disappeared under a cuff. You look like trouble that learned discipline, he said. Is that meant to be good? It is meant to be true. We entered through a side hall that smelled like lemons and secrets. 2 keys and 1 jaw muscle opened the lift. The room loved red. Red curtains, red glasses, red laughter around dark tables where men pretended to be bored and women pretended not to notice. He moved through it like he had paid for the paint. People turned the way birds do when magnetism changes. I kept half a step behind, and let my eyes count what his eyes already knew. Who looked at the case? Who looked at me? Who studied nothing too carefully? On the balcony the city pretended to be generous. The woman from the photograph stood where the caption promised. In person she was sharper. The locket winked with a habit. 2 men leaned in to hear, and leaned back like her words had heat. Adrian's voice did not travel far, but it did not need to. Name. Ariana Voss, I murmured. Also known as whoever she needs to be to leave rooms with more than she brought. Old money dress. New knife smile. He did not look at me. He let approval move through the muscles near his jaw like a quiet nod. Ariana turned and surprise dressed her face with expensive ease. You, she said. I heard you fell. I come up for air on Fridays, he said. And you brought a date, she said, letting her gaze run over me like a quick scan at the airport. Charity looks good on you. Do not cheapen charity, he replied. It is the last honest business. Is that mine, she asked, letting a finger touch the locket as if it might tell her a different answer. No, he said. And yes. She laughed in a way diamonds would if they could. You will always love riddles. He set the case on the marble lip, but did not open it. Your message reached the wrong hands, he said. Next time teach your courier the difference between a sidewalk and a stage. Her mouth did nothing, and that was more than something. Her eyes came to me, and behind the beauty a calculation sat up straight. A waitress with decent shoes, she said. He collects strays with bite. Some strays belong to themselves, I said, because truth sometimes dresses like defiance to be heard. What is in the case, she asked. What you left out, he said. Open it, she purred. No. Then why invite me to the balcony, Adrian? To decide if anyone earns a second honesty. Rarely, she said. Tonight feels elastic, he answered. He turned to me and the room dimmed by a degree that was not electrical. Hold it. I took the handle. It was only weight, but my body expected lightning. Money does not burn until somebody lights it. Look at her, he said. Tell me if I am wrong about what happens next. I studied Ariana's face like a coastline. Pride where fear should be. Silk where skin should be. Danger where apology should be. She will accept forgiveness because she thinks it is a drink she can forget after. She will wear the locket tomorrow and call it history. And after that, she will sell you when the price is right. Not because she hates you. Because she loves herself first. The quiet that came had edges. Ariana's smile did not fall. It learned angles. You brought a poet, she said. How quaint. Leave the city tonight, Adrian said, and do not come back. Take the second chance I do not give twice. Or what, she asked. He did not answer. He did not need to. Somewhere 2 floors down a locked door remembered a name. Somewhere 3 streets away a car memorized a route. If I go, she asked softer than her dress allowed, who will wear this when they take your breath? No one wears anything for me, he said. Not anymore. Recognition moved across her face like cloud shadow. Then you finally learned. I had a teacher. She was expensive. She did not make a profit. Ariana looked at me and sorrow flashed in that look like a signal someone sent from a lighthouse. Then she was gone and red rushed back to fill the space. Walk, Adrian said. We were 3 blocks from my building when he told me to take the weekend off. I work weekends, I said. You did, he said. Now you do not. I cannot afford. You cannot afford to be where they expect you when they come. Who is they? I asked. People who dislike second chances. People who will misread you until misreading becomes harm. What am I asked, and hated the plea inside the words. An inconvenient compass, he said. The car slid into the alley behind my building. He did not touch my arm. He did not look away when I looked. If anything feels wrong, he said, it is not a feeling. I took 3 steps toward the back in trance and froze. A sound that did not belong reached me from 2 floors up. A door catching a chain. A small careful exhale. Adrian, I said to the dark. He was already out of the car. He lifted a hand and the alley filled with men who had been there a moment ago. One took the front. One became the basement. Adrian took the stairs as if they knew his name. My door was open 4 inches. The chain hung broken like a necklace after a fight. Inside a shape moved for the window. He met the frame. He met the floor. He met 2 men who made gravity a career. Adrian did not shout. He looked at my kitchen table where life fit into piles. 3 envelopes addressed in red. A cup with a chip. The photograph of Ariana face down. He picked it. He looked at it. He looked at me. Pack a bag, he said. Now. I did not ask why. I put my life in a small bag and left behind what would have to forgive me. In the car the case waited with the patience of an animal that wants to be better. Where are we going, I asked. Somewhere I never take anyone, he said. Why me? Because you still tell the truth when it hurts. And because someone who hates me knows your name. Beyond the bridge, New Jersey tried to be quiet. Pines leaned together the way people do, when they keep secrets properly. The house was stone and shadow and glass. Modern without arrogance. Guarded without theater. Inside warmth rolled toward us. The living room let the river view do the work. Art refused to show off. Guest room, he said. Lock from inside. Alarm beyond that. If you need the night to be louder, tell the wall. Do you sleep? I asked. Always, he said. And never. Helpful, I said. The kitchen waited like a friend who knows how to stand close without words. He took the mug I poured for him, and closed his eyes 1 second longer than any man like him should. I need you to do something, he said. Am I employed? I asked, aiming for lightness and missing only a little. You are consulted, he said. There is a difference. Which pays more? The one that keeps you alive. He opened the case. Beneath the obedient cash lay papers with the rude confidence of ledgers that matter. He spread 3 pages that looked like songs written in numbers. Circle the pattern, he said. I am a waitress. You are observant, and you are not in love with your first idea. I studied. The numbers behaved. Then misbehaved. Colors repeated at the wrong moments. Names hid inside initials that did not sit still. This color, I said, tapping a square. It sings off key. Why mine, he asked. Because you do not hum out of key, even when you are wrong. He breathed like a man whose bones had already known the answer. That color is a person, he said. He developed an appetite. Let me guess. Someone you trusted. Past tense helps. He slid another sheet across. Times and amounts. Circle the hours that make a hungry person bolder. I circled midnight, and the hours that pretend not to be mornings. People become themselves there, I said. He nodded. Good. Before I could ask what came next, footsteps in the hallway belonged to history, not danger. A woman entered with gray hair braided like crown work, and eyes that had survived wars of men, and the quieter wars of kitchens. She wore an olive sweater, and carried a basket that smelled of rosemary and apology. Nona, Adrian said, and I watched the careful man turn human on one word. You should not be here tonight, and you should not be you, she said, kissing the air near his cheek. We do what we must. She looked at me, did not flinch at newness. You are thinner than I like. Do you like soup? Yes. Good. She fed the house, she fed him, she fed me, and she told us both to eat before our organs forgot how. She called love a weapon and the house agreed. When she left, he rolled his sleeves. Ink on his forearm said sentences in a language I could not yet read. She likes you, he said. She likes feeding things that cannot feed themselves yet, I said. That is what I said, he answered. He cleaned the dishes like a man who learned chores as geography. If you do not know where things go, you do not belong. I dried. For a small loud moment we were just 2 people in a kitchen, and it felt like rebellion. I have to meet a man I used to call friend, he said at last. Do you trust him? No. Then why meet him? Because there are betrayals you only correct in person. His phone buzzed once. He looked tired on the edges. Stay, he said. And if I do not touch the case. Not because it will explode. Because it will make you heavier than you want to be. He left with a coat that did not need to prove anything. The house exhaled. I walked because standing still felt like asking the night to come closer. A piano in the sitting room held a soft note when I touched it, like someone had paused mid-song and promised to return. In the study, photographs lined a shelf. A boy with scraped knuckles and a paper boat. A woman whose eyes laughed and a small tattoo of a bee at her wrist. A notebook on the desk with a single sentence on the first page. If I break forward. He had said those words to me like they were new. They were old. They were a vow. My phone buzzed. Are you alive? Sonny wrote, with a photo of heart-shaped pancakes. Define alive, I sent back. The other phone vibrated. A single word. Run. The blood left my hands. Adrian, I said to the house in the tone people use when they talk to God without saying his name. The lights did not flicker. The wall did not answer. The back door learned a new key the way a lock does when someone teaches it without permission. Footsteps on stone. One set. Not loud. Confident. I crossed the kitchen and pushed the case under the desk until my shoulders felt it hide against the wall. I took the fire extinguisher in both hands because it was near and heavy and honest. He entered with handsome that had learned knives. Late 30s. Shoes that did not dare scuff. A canvas bag in one hand. A blade in the other that belonged in a century when men called their sins by fancier names. He scanned the room and his eyes skated under the desk, and did not catch the dark shape. He went to the bookshelf and pulled a title from the second shelf with a hand that had rehearsed it. A painting swung open to show a safe. He pressed his palm and the steel gave a small betrayal. He lifted a stack of photographs tied with twine. He flipped through them with care that did not match his greed. Looking for your reflection? I asked. He turned. Half a second of real surprise. You must be the waitress. I expected absence. People say that when they expected me to be smaller. He laughed softly, like a man who hears himself too often. Who are you? I asked to buy seconds and to name the thing that broke in here. Do not be disappointed, he said. Judas never looks like a worm. So yes, I said. You were the friend. We were children, he said, and for a moment something honest moved under the surface of his voice. We stole bread before we learned which prayer to choose. You could apologize. I could. Then I would have to mean it. He moved a step closer. I lifted the extinguisher. He stopped. Brave. Foolish. Overrated. What is in the bag? The pieces of his life he thinks he can do without. Men like him always throw away the wrong pieces. Then why steal them? Because I like to finish jobs properly. He followed my eyes to the desk. There we are, he said softly. Good girl. He moved. I moved faster. The extinguisher met his forearm with a sound like a metal church bell. The knife dropped and sliced the twine instead of me. Photographs fell like secrets. On top, a younger Adrian beside a boy I guess was this man, and Ariana in the background with a locket 2 years too early. The intruder swore and lunged. I kicked the case deeper into the dark. His smile broke and his hands changed their minds about what they wanted. The first hit found my shoulder and lit a quiet fire in my ribs. The second never landed because Adrian stepped through the doorway like an answer. Dante, he said. The name filled the room with history. I hoped it was not you. I knew it was. You hoped to be wrong one time in your life. Put the bag down, Adrian said. Come take it, Dante replied. The room held 3 heartbeats in its hands, and then tossed them aside. Dante looked at me. Just long enough to tell Adrian that religion had found a child. Adrian stepped between the blasphemy and the altar. They moved the way men move when nobody is watching. Quick. Me. Necessary. Dante reached for the knife and touched an old memory instead. Adrian reached for his wrist and found the truth. Dante would keep going until someone else ended his turn. They hit the desk. Paper sighed. Wood protested. The case thudded against the wall. Ariana's photograph slid under the rug. I do not remember stepping in. I remember the weight of the extinguisher again, and the way white chemical snow swallowed Dante's eyes and bought us the small winter needed to save spring. He coughed angry. Adrian moved twice and Dante's hands were behind him with a plastic bite on his wrists. Men who answer to loyalty more than salary filled the doorway like competence arriving on time. They took him with care because care is also a message. He looked at me once through the fog of anger. He will forgive you until he cannot, he said. I do not ask permission to be forgiven, I answered. He laughed like broken glass. Then you are perfect for him. After is a heavy word. We cleaned because water and towels are sometimes the only grammar that holds a room together. Nona arrived without asking the wall. She saw the snow on the rug and the bruise rising on my shoulder, and the cut at Adrian's lip he had not noticed. Who should I hate tomorrow? She asked, and I said anyone who tells me to stop eating when I am hungry. Good answer, she said. She pressed a clean cloth into his hand, and a cookie into mine, and told the sauce to wait for us to be right. When she left, he locked the case and the sound did not feel like secrecy anymore. It felt like punctuation. I was going to tell you, he said at last. About Dante. About Ariana. About why the case had to find hands that would call me even when they did not want to. You just did, I said. I owe you, he said. I do not like owing. Then show me. Show you what? That you meant it when you said you are done with games. Tell the truth before it hurts, not after. He took that medicine. I watched it do the thing medicine does when people stop arguing with it. I will, he said. The matte phone in the drawer vibrated. He answered and did not say hello. Enjoy your snowstorm, asked a voice cool enough to make glasses sweat. Ariana. You are late, he said. I always am. It lets me see who is still there. What do you see? Pieces where they belong. And one piece you forgot to remove. I did not need the room to get colder to understand. You brought a waitress into a war, she said. That is not like you. It is now. Good, she said, and for the first time Sarah removed her jewelry. Then hear me when I say this is not over. The line went dead. The river under the window listened. Morning pretended nothing had happened. The fog uncurled from the water. Coffee made its small promises. He stood at the window and looked like a man who had tried not to think before light and failed. You stayed, he said. You told me to, I said. Also your coffee is better than mine. He nodded. We have to move. Dante will not talk the way we need. Ariana will, but only if she believes the story ends with her name spelled correctly. Do you want to meet her? I want to make the space where a decision becomes permanent. We drove without escort because sometimes safety becomes noisy when too many people try to help. At the pier the light was honest on dishonest water. Ariana stood at the end in a gray coat, and a face that had decided to stop lying to itself for 20 minutes. You brought her to push me in, she said. If I push you nobody will see it, he said. That is the difference. You loved secrets more than crowds. That is what made you dangerous. What made me dangerous was believing anyone else would not be. She looked at me. Do you know he used to be sweet? I know he is, I said. Ariana laughed once with an unfamiliar kindness. Maybe. Before the house taught him its rules. I broke the house, he said. You own the house, she said. Not the same. Then sell it, I said, because sometimes a waitress says the thing no one else in the room is allowed to say. He does not sell, Ariana said. He gives away when he is finished, I said. I saw the shelf where he keeps the people he used to be. Her eyes softened with a memory that was too private to borrow. If you keep this one, she told him, you will have to stop pretending to hate yourself for wanting something without a price tag. You took money meant for children, he said to the water more than to her. I took revenge on men who use grief to hide their sin. Not me. Not you. But your people. Your house. Your rules while you were busy being broken. She unclasped the locket. The small sound of chain releasing changed the weather on the pier. She held it out to me. Not to him. To the person who looks at things and says what they are. I closed my hand around its weight, and did not open it. Now what? Now you go, he said. For good. Leave a map behind with every treasure marked with an X. And if I do not? Then I stopped being sweet. No threat. Only fact. She nodded. Real grace crossed her face for the first time. You chose a lioness, she said, nodding at me. For once in your life you chose right. She left the way honest exits leave. Boots on wood. Wind in cloth. The river did not take anything. He turned to me. You could have walked away a dozen times. You did not. I thought about it. I did not want you in this, he said. I put myself in it, I said. You told me to go. You told me to break. You did not expect me to know how. He smiled then. Slow and unguarded and human. Stay, he said. You make that word sound like survive, I said. Both, he said. With me. I placed the locket in his palm. For the shelf. For the person you will not be again. He closed his fingers around it, and a muscle in his jaw found a better job. Partners, he said. Partners, I answered. He kissed me then, not because the story needed decoration, but because we had earned it. It did not feel cinematic. It felt like truth choosing to speak. Back at the house, a pot of sauce simmered because Nona had promised it would, and pots keep promises when people forget. He set the locket on the shelf between the laughing eyes and the paper boat, and it looked like an ending that knew how to be a beginning. We ate at the kitchen island because tables can be too formal for mornings that remember nights. I told him about the eatery jukebox that only works when it rains. He told me about stealing espresso cups as a child, and a grandmother who made him return each one with apologies that tasted like discipline. His phone buzzed. He read, and the light in his eyes sharpened and warmed at the same time. Map delivered. Accounts identified. Children get their money back. Good, I said. Sometimes the right thing deserves no garnish. Stay, he said again. And this time the word meant a key and a drawer and a toothbrush that would not feel like trespass. On one condition, I said. Name it. No more tests. No more wallets left like traps. No more lessons you could learn by asking. He held my gaze for the length of a river breath. Done, he said. And when his hand closed over mine, the promise felt witnessed by more than the room. The bell rang. The house listened. He checked the monitor and went still. My past, he said. Which chapter? I asked. The one that taught me the difference between owning a house and having a home. He opened the door to a man in a suit that did not fit and a badge that did. The detective removed his hat the way people do in churches that do not belong to them. Mr. Cavan, he said. We need to talk about a message someone sent me last night with your number on it. He held up a small phone sealed in a plastic bag. On the cracked screen, 3 words. Debt paid for now. Silence is a kind of visitor. It came in and looked at the locket, and at us, and at the steam rising from the sauce. The city shone on the glass like nothing had changed, and everything had. He stepped aside. The detective entered. The door closed on the old world and opened on the next room in this one. I felt 2 truths hold hands. We had earned a happy ending. Someone had just placed a new question on the table with the salt and the bread and left it ticking. Where are you watching from? Drop your city in the comments. I am wishing you a calm mind, good news today, and one small win before nightfall. If this story held you, subscribe and stay close. Your support helps me bring you more love tales where hearts are tested and still choose tenderness. May you find a soft place to land before the day is done.